Okay, let's now proceed with the Q&A. For those who have questions, please send in them through the Zoom Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Proceed now to our Q&A. But let me start. Juanis, market broke 6,600. Are we now leading to a bear market? What is the probability? Where's the probability higher? Is it the probability of bouncing up, or will the downtrend continue? Can you give us a bit more color on that likelihood?
Well, if you notice an earlier slide that I showed, I'm saying that we are on a wave 4 of a major recovery wave. And so that means that although, yes, we could have some short-term downside, it tells us that we're still in a general recovery situation. We cannot go from 0 to 60 on a bat of an eye. So this will have to staircase higher. So we are now in a corrective wave of that staircase, and so we just have to wait out this little short-term pressure. But no, I don't feel that we are. I think we've finished the bearish swing with the ABC that we saw last year.
Okay, with the April naman, I'd like to ask you also, with the rise in the COVID cases, there is a high probability of continued restrictions that will again affect our economy, putting at risk this expected recovery. I know it will be hard to say this, no, but is this just temporary, or is this going to get worse? My question is that what will we do with our investments with all of these uncertainties? We don't know where it's going to go, diba? What are we going to do with our investments?
Yeah, for me, I think, it's difficult to call a bottom, no, or where should we pick up, no? But for me, I just compared it to 2020. Are we going to see a repeat of 2020 or a return of prices, say, to the 5,000 level? And, when I think of it from that perspective, I compare today to 2020. I don't think so. Because first of all, notwithstanding a lot of delays, we do actually have vaccines available right now. And, the funny thing is the government seems to be ramping up on acquiring vaccines the past few days, So last year, we didn't even know if a vaccine would be discovered. Yeah. So I think that's one thing. And then secondly, remember that, it's only in the Philippines that this is happening. Unfortunately, the Philippines is the worst performing stock market. And, the rising infections is happening here. In other countries, they're actually recovering. And, that said, at least they would be able to help in terms of boosting the OFW remittances, the exports, and, if maybe we loosen our restriction after controlling the infections a little bit, then we could see more BPOs coming in, no? And aside from that, are we going to do another ECQ? The government has said that, they don't want to do it because it's going to be very costly in terms of the economy. In terms of stimulus, we're so stingy. We don't want to stimulate the economy. Then if they do another lockdown, then they will have to stimulate the economy even more. And they said, tama naman yung sinabi nila, compared to before, there are other ways. We are more prepared. We have more capacity to address the situation, and there are ways to address the situation without having to lock down, like making sure people are obeying minimum health standards, and diba, pwede mang localized lockdowns, etc. So there are ways, and they can also accelerate the vaccination process. So they can do it that way, which in a way they are trying to do. So, that said, and finally pala, the valuations, we're not expensive naman eh. We did rally, but we've gone down a bit already from the peak of around 7,374. We're now at 6,600, and at 6,600, we're around at the midpoint of valuations, and remember the reason why we are at 18 times PE, which sabi nyo mahal pa rin yan, is because of SM Prime, and the big cap stocks that are still trading up there regardless. But if you look at all the other index issues, all the underlying stocks, they're also cheap, all trading below their 10-year historical average PE. So kumbaga parang ang mumura pa rin naman nila eh. So I don't think, yeah, the stocks have rallied a bit from the low, but they're nowhere near where they were in 2019,
Okay, thank you for that, April. Let's get some questions. Do you have the one? Question from Mark. When do you expect the recovery for aviation industry? MAC, Cebu PAL, Philippine Airlines. We notice in other countries that after vaccinating their people, the demand for aviation increased. American Airlines said on news that no more cash burn at the end of March. What's your recommendation for the aviation stock? Coming from Mark. April, you want to start?
Yeah, I guess, okay, for siguro na lang sa Cebu na lang, no? When it did the convertible prefs, okay. I guess ganito na lang. When they raised the funding for that convertible pref, the company said they raised enough funds to survive for the next 2 years. So if you believe that in the next 2 years, our government will finally loosen the travel restrictions, that I think it's a good time to buy the stock, or while it's correcting right now, pwede na siyang bilhin. Pero that's your own personal conviction, no? Yun ang tingin ko. Kasi, syempre ngayon,
if they will loosen up the restrictions, no?
Oo. Yun naman ang problema eh. Even the local travel is very strict. But then if you think about it, I mean, Cebu Pacific is the most efficient, a very efficient airline, not only in the Philippines, but around the world. I mean, if they're not gonna survive, then I don't know.
Tsaka April, we all want to travel na. Gusto na natin
diba?
lumabas.
When we did a survey for one of our client, diba, events, diba, tinanong nyo, what's the first thing you will do? Diba? Everybody wants to travel. So.
Travel, right. And you cannot go out of the country. Hindi naman yata tayo tatanggapin doon. So locally na yan, diba? Okay. Question from Willie. Have the speculators left Converge? Is it the real buying phase now? Juanis, you want to take that?
I feel sure. I think so. We've managed to be able to pull out of a key area already for Converge, and I think you're seeing it in a staircase type of advance. So every time it has a dip, makes a higher low, you go ahead and buy it.
Good. Next question, Raymond. This question from Raymond. Could you please give us insight if Monde's IPO might affect URC? Thank you. April, take that?
Yeah. In some ways, yes. Especially if the valuation of Monde is up there. But remember, this Monde is not entirely the same as URC, because si URC, ang big business niyan is coffee and ano ba yun, yung iced tea? Chips, not even so much, although it also has chips, noodles, biscuits, etc. But bulk of what it earns is from coffee and C2. And those businesses are very dependent on mobility. Si Monde 50% of domestic is instant noodles.
Lucky me.
Na lucky me, na sobrang lakas pag may pandemic.
Kahit may pandemic.
And secondly, may kicker siya na uso. It's the veggie meats, yung corn. It's a chicken-like. And if you try that, it really tastes like the McDonald's chicken nuggets. Masarap talaga siya. And it's the number one veggie meat player in the UK. So they are trying to raise funds because naka-capacity na sila doon, and they need to invest in more capacity so that they can grow that business. So I mean, think about the valuations of Beyond Meat. Surprisingly, I think they are even bigger than Beyond Meat. They will also be targeting the US market. So,
Okay.
it's very exciting from that
Good.
perspective.
Good.
So,
But
hindi mo
it will not
siya,
affect URC. But it will not affect URC. Yung question niya. Might affect URC?
um, baka
Maybe the
not
price,
so
no? The
much.
price, ano? Uh,
Mm,
so it depends now on the valuation where they will offer the IPO for Monday.
yeah, oo.
Yeah. Okay, sige. Next question, please. Next question. April, this is for you. The financial sector has done well in the US. Why do you think it is not so in the Philippines? What is the market pricing in? April.
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking myself that, but
Mm.
the way I'm thinking about it is, I mean, if you think about the banks actually compared to the rest of the other companies in the Philippines, they have done relatively well na rin. Except
Mm.
that if you think about the economic growth in the Philippines, we are also lagging behind the other countries in the world. That's why maybe the banks aren't doing as well. Diba?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's more of
yeah, yeah.
that. But
Uh-huh.
banks relative to other stocks in the Philippines, I think naman mas okay, diba? I mean, can you imagine two out of the how many stocks that Juanis likes are banks, no? So, diba? So that says something.
So underappreciated tayo, underappreciated.
Oh,
So this is a
parang
good opportunity.
oh,
Good opportunity.
medyo kulang pa. I think they want to wait until there are solid signs that the economy is really recovering, but with the increase in the number of infections, then maybe natakot na naman ang tao na kung paano magre-recover to. Because really, I mean, we had the worst performance in terms of GDP last year
Uh-uh.
among
Uh-uh.
Asia.
So my question, April, if the market improves, eto ang susunod. Eto na,
I think
finance.
so. I think so. Oo.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So ano lang, dala lang tayo ng this COVID thing, Sige, next please. From Mari, what can you say about now? Juanis, do you remember the chart here? What can you say about it?
Well, I wish I could show the chart, but right now it's been going into a downtrend for the entire 2021, and I've not seen it change. So I'm more inclined to see more of that weakness into the short term. So not yet, guys,
Not yet,
not
not
time
yet.
yet. No.
Any fundamental change here, April? On the
Wala
may ano ba
eh.
sa
Wala
telco?
naman. Wala naman.
Wala pa. So, okay. Next question, please. From David. ICT, please, on Funda and Tech. Thanks so much. I guess it's fundamental and technical. Want to start, April, on fundamental of ICT?
Yeah, I think
Global trade.
fundamentals are okay naman. It's showing recovery. So I think it's okay. Medyo mahal lang in terms of valuation.
Global trade. Is it affected? Global trade is improving,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think fundamentally they're doing
Mm-mm.
well. Juanis, you remember the technicals on this one?
Yep, it's in a consolidating band. Looks like a box between 129 high and about 120 or 118 low. So given that, try to buy on the low side when you can. Unless of course this guy can break out above 129, 130, in which case go ahead and follow it. But when you can, buy it on the lower end of the range that I said. I like the chart.
Good. Okay, so at least you like this one. I'll add that to my list.
Yeah.
ICT. Okay, next up. Next question, please. Edilberto, what lies for Meg this year? April, what lies for
Yeah.
Meg?
It should be
Being on
okay fundamentally, kasi
yeah.
and also compared to the other property companies, if you think about it, Mega World really is more resilient to this pandemic because a lot of the rental properties that they own are offices found in the best locations, BGC with PESA accreditation. On the residential yun medyo mahina because of course sila puro condos di ba? Yun lang nga. And but the malls, they don't even have a lot of malls. So that should not have much impact. I mean, yeah, we really like Mega World and it's not highly leveraged. And yun lang baka kasi yung REIT wala siyang REIT this year, baka next year pa, 'di ba? So yun lang yung dehado niya. But it should have a good REIT because it has a good portfolio of assets that it can REIT.
Yeah. So okay siya. For this year, okay pa. Yeah. All right.
Dapat, oo.
Good. Thanks. Next question. Next question, please. From Sarah, is Double Dragon a good buy? Could it break the strong resistance at 14 peso level? Thanks. I guess that's for you, Juanis. Can you check out the chart?
It might be able to break 14, but I don't think of the 14 being the crucial resistance. The crucial resistance has been 1470 and about maybe 1550, if I remember correctly. 14 is not, I know it's the site of where it broke down from, and that's why you're probably anticipating resistance, but it might be able to rally a little bit more. So don't think just because it goes over 14 that's it already. No, not yet. It'll have to do more than that to be able to recover.
No, but is it a good buy?
I would sell the rally first and then wait for a higher low, like I discussed earlier on with Marvin.
Yeah, for us
Any fundamentals there?
Yeah. Well, the success of the DD REIT is good for Double Dragon because the Double Dragon is the REIT sponsor, therefore they will get a big chunk of the proceeds, and then they will still own the company and earn from the REIT, no? Because remember, they will still own 66% of it. Well, sa bagay, almost 66% because they have a sharing with the Yuhuiko family. But anyway, that said, they only gave up on the taxes kasi malaki pa rin ma-earn nila. And then, aside from that, they raise so much cash which they can use to build the buildings. They don't need to borrow more money. And then they can also now finally pursue the expansion of their warehouse complex around the country, no? So yung central hub business.
Pwede.
Maganda. It's good for the IPO. Really is a good thing for them, and fundamentally it should improve the outlook.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next, Sarah, okay daw. Next question, please. From Arman. Money got stuck with AR. Oh, ipit sa AR. What will happen with the money if stock got delisted due to its violations? Who wants to take that?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're on the threat of the delisting just yet. I think they're trying to be able to comply with it. So you may just have to wait for certain things to happen because of like you said, the violations that were discovered. But you just have to patiently wait. You have no other choice. You cannot sell this or liquefy it anyway. So, but of what I don't really hear too serious talks about it getting delisted as of yet. I'm sure they're going to try to comply because there's too many people involved in that stuff.
Okay. At least they can wait. Oh, so Arman, wait daw muna and pray. Okay. Next question, please. From John, do you think AP will be a good buy and recover in the next few years? AP, power assets. April, think it will be a good buy?
I think okay naman. The valuations are very attractive and it provides some cash dividends. The problem is, of course, yun na nga, the company is suffering from mga outages, di ba? And then, if, the problem is, okay, if we see a repeat of what happened in 2020 where the WSM prices go down, the problem is AP has a big chunk of its power that do not have contracts. So kung mababa yung price ng WSM, it will, be selling power at a low price also. Yun yung problem.
Yeah. So okay siya. Chart-wise, Juanis.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't look too good. Still on a
I
clear
think
downtrend.
it's more of if you compare it to other power companies, there are other better ones. Pero parang in general, parang pwede na rin, ganon. Mas
Pwede
maganda lang yung, say, FGen, kasi,
Uh-huh.
okay, like FGen is more of the clean energy, and then it was able to lock in
Contracts.
mga contracts.
Yeah.
Oo,
Yeah.
yun. So,
Yeah.
so yun. Ito yun problema eh, kasi it has mga contracts that are expiring that they weren't able to lock in. So right now, since prices are depressed, they are forced to sell at a low price.
Okay. Juanis, you said the chart doesn't look good.
No, it's still in a downtrend, Marvin, and it doesn't look like it's creating a base just yet.
So hindi rin maganda doon. Okay. Next question from Alan. Is there a particular shift from growth to value stocks in the PSE, similar to the US indices? Is there a particular shift from growth to value? April, meron na bang shift?
Yeah. Meron. Remember the resilient stocks during the pandemic, which is your telcos and say your pure golds, your CNPF, they hardly moved. Whereas you saw at one point in time your property companies, banks, and the others rallying. The problem is, of course, 'di ba? Hindi na sustain kasi nga, 'di ba? Nagkaroon nga itong mga worries about inflation and COVID. So, yun yung problema, hindi siya na-sustain.
Yeah, but the theme, I can imagine the question. Kasi sa US na, it's recovery. So, they're going now to the cyclical stocks, no? They're talking about the value stocks. Tayo, medyo tinamaan lang. But our trend is there as well. No? We're supposed to be recovering. But medyo tinamaan lang ng konti. No? Okay. Next question, please. We have few more. We can get more questions from Derek. What's weighing down URC, April? What's weighing it down?
Yeah, I think when you listen into URC's earnings presentations, they talk about how weak the demand for their products is. Actually, not for their products, for particular categories in general, like yun na nga, coffee, for the C2, yung mga ganon, biscuits. Kasi yung mga tao, pag hindi pumapasok.
Sa restaurants kasi yun, oo. Diba?
O, pwede pumapasok yung tao, hindi namimili sa, tsaka walang pera, nahirapan. So, but, that said, I would say that URC is impressive in the sense that they were actually able to grab market share from their competitors and they were still able to generate good profits. But it's hard to convince people to be bullish on a company just because it was able to grab market share, but the whole industry is weak, 'di ba? Mahina yung demand. As we've discussed earlier, anong bang binibili ng tao? Binibili ng tao is instant noodles. And believe it or not, ang sabi ng instant noodles, and aside from that, ang binibili daw is the canned goods because according to CNPF, they cannot afford the fresh meat. So they will just buy canned goods for them. Parang, it's an inferior product, or I don't know if it's inferior, but, I think for the budget, baka, di ba, mas mura siya. Kaysa bibili ka ng fresh meat, iluluto mo.
So it's a general consumer, demand that's really weighing it down. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sige. Next, please. Next question. We have some more questions pa ba? From Jerry. How will REIT affect the stock price of FLI? So FLI is going to offer REIT. I guess it will benefit, no, April?
Yeah. Dapat lang, no? Kasi I think the market cap of Philinvest, the whole company, including its land bank and resi, is below 30 billion pesos, whereas the value of the REIT is around 40 billion. And that's just one of the many companies owned by Philinvest, one of the many businesses. So it should benefit the stock price of Philinvest.
Okay. Sige, let's have a few more questions from Mark. How about MWIDE and CHP? Do you think it's okay to hold on to those stocks? MWIDE, medyo cash flow ba to? Or in CHP?
Yung
April.
yeah, the MWIDE, the problem is of course the airport business, which accounts for a big chunk of its operations, so or a big
Yeah.
chunk of its earnings, and
Uh-huh.
because of the rising infections, of course, imbis na mag-turn around, wala, sumama pa ulit, no? Pero I mean, it's tough. I think it's hard.
So they have a lot of challenges. It's mega wide, no? Yeah. CHP, how about
Yeah,
CHP?
oo. CHP, for us, it's more of a governance issue. The stock is cheap, pero after what it did a year or two ago, di ba? Parang, ano ba yung nag-rights offering siya or what? Tapos parang, basta sama.
Mm,
Di ba? So, we kind of don't like the stock.
Juanis, do you have a view on the charts of these two stocks?
Yeah, I'm just looked at them. They're both still on downtrends and they have not bottomed out yet. But if the question is it okay to hold on? It looks like a more
Yeah.
longer term perspective on that question. But short term, not yet, has not based yet. So there's a possibility it could still soften.
Yeah. So if you have any alternative, lipat mo na yan. But
Yeah.
it may take a while, no?
Wait for the rally before you sell, yeah.
Okay. Sige. Couple more questions siguro. We have a bit more time na lang. It looks like the biggest concern in the market are more domestic issue. Do you think this can be overcome by the positive news overseas? So you showed Juanis, you showed some charts that are overseas are doing well. You think that will be overcome by our issues here, Juanis?
I guess the way I would answer that is as long as we don't add more to what we already have today, because if we do see some more complications into our situation, then it's it would constantly pull out any positives that can churn out anywhere else. Like for example, I mean, if for example if we do even have lockdowns, more serious lockdowns, and I think that's something that was out of our radar, maybe in the last so many weeks. And so I think things like that might be the only thing that could prove to be disturbing, unless, of course, something else. And of course, we also have to discuss about whether elections could be a problem potentially, or whether it would distract the focus of the government and the focus of people on solving our issues, because the campaigning machine begins. So, little things like that can still prove to be a problem.
Yeah. April, you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I think kung news lang, baka hindi. Kasi the positive news is there already eh. What else, diba? But I mean, last year, if you look at the performance of the PSEI relative to other countries, it was the same eh. We were treated as part of the ASEAN basket, but in 2021, we decoupled from the rest of ASEAN, and precisely because of the local issues. The good news is there, the stimulus program is there, and then of course nagkaroon ng the di ba, more vaccines, etc., whatever. Pero well, what happened to us? Inflation, we're the only ones having that, and then the rising infection. So I think the only way that the overseas developments will have an impact on our market is if it trickles down through, say, higher OFW remittances, more BPO jobs, and higher exports. Then maybe they're gonna say, oh, finally it's trickling down to the Philippines, so even if they're doing a bad job domestically, it doesn't matter anymore, because they're benefiting from the global economic recovery.
Yeah. Okay. Sige, let's have next question. From Joel, your thoughts about second lockdown. Will it be possible again? I guess it's possible again. And what stocks would be stable even if that occurs? April, what stocks?
Yeah. Well, remotely possible, but not really. As I've said, the government cannot afford another lockdown. And you know, I mean, if you look at the news, they've been asked again about a lockdown, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to do it because they know the repercussions. They cannot afford it. And you know, maybe in Manila kasi there are hospitals that are becoming overwhelmed. But you know, I think you can go to the DOH website. It's actually excellent because you can select certain cities and select the hospitals. And if you do a macro, they can always say, you know, the hospitals are not overwhelmed because countrywide, if you do it, hindi talaga, nasa 50% occupancy lang yung mga hospital beds, no? They can always justify it that way, you know. Because I don't think they want to do it because they don't want to spend money, you know. But what stocks would be stable? Then I would think maybe the telcos, and for the utilities, maybe
Yeah.
Manila Water and
Yeah.
Meralco, no? Nandun pa rin yung demand, hindi nawawala.
Okay. Okay. So I think we've exceeded our time. You know. Oh, ito pa. Let's get this as a last question. No? From Edilberto. Is it still advisable to average down for stocks you already hold? Thanks, heaps. Juanis, average down? You're on mute. Okay.
The way I would answer that really is, remember in my presentation earlier, I really highly suggested that you had to be stock selective. So I cannot say that I will say yes for all, because there are a lot of issues that are trending down heavily, and that may take a considerable amount of time before they reverse. So if the stocks that you're talking about are, you're still relatively above even some of their moving averages, then perhaps you can. But any clear and heavy declines that we're still seeing to the market, especially from very, very weak issues, you might want to be able to do some shift out, especially if a rally comes in, and then look for the more formidable issues and then do your transfers there.
So I guess what you're trying to say is that technically weak. You don't have to average down, di ba? Don't need to average down. Weak na nga eh. Continues to go down. Eh.
Yeah.
April, if the fundamentals are okay naman, then probably you can, right?
Yeah. Well, okay, for me, syempre fundamentalists will say this is your opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what we say, no? But
average down.
hindi, I mean, ano na lang, some advice na lang. If you wanna average down, maybe I'd average down on a stock that I'm sure will give me good cash dividends, na medyo resilient yung earnings. At least while I'm waiting, I get something. But you better make sure that company will still be profitable. Kasi baka mamaya, kung di naging profitable, di wala rin cash dividend, di wala rin point, di ba?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think if you're gonna average down, might as well buy a stock that provides good cash dividends. And secondly, make sure that when you buy a stock to average down with, don't use money that you will need in the short term, because even though these are companies that I like and you like, I mean, if the economy is bad, sentiment is poor, it's not going to go up. You know, you have to recognize that it could take a very long time, and you don't want to be forced to sell at a bad price just because you need the money. So, may konting risk management element din. Hindi pwedeng opportunity of a lifetime tapos sabay you need to sell it and then you're forced to sell at a huge loss, because it is possible at this point, you know.
I guess Edilberto, you just have to be choosing the right stocks that you can average down, no? Or diba? And hold, diba? You have to be very selective on these ones. So maybe let's just get one last question, if there's one more last question, and then the others will try to answer you by email, no? We'll try the other. If you have a lot of other questions, kaya lang, I think we're exceeding our time limit na. Last question from Eduardo. Thoughts on NIKL Asia? April, NIKL Asia, nickel prices.
It's okay naman. Nickel prices are going up, and of course, it's somewhat benefiting from the excitement over EVs. But again, for us, it's really the valuations. It's a little bit pricey. The stock has really gone up a lot compared to last year, no? So yun lang. Well, maybe you could also look at nickel prices if it continues to go up. Most likely it will track the performance of the commodity.
One is you showed the commodity index chart there that was looking good. You think Nickel Asia will benefit from that too?
Well, on the chart of nickel Asia alone, I saw an earlier divergence on the highs. That's not a good indicator. So
Mm-hmm.
that is a prelude to a usually a major correction. Second, I'm actually looking now at the chart of nickel. Nickel had pulled back from $8.70 to about $7.40.
Oh.
That's a big drop, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why nickel Asia is also running through a corrective move. So in the short term, there might be a little bit more pain. Just
Mm-hmm.
wait for it to base out from that movement and let it settle down.
Okay. So thank you very much, April and Juanis, for our Q&A session. And again, as I announced, the other questions we will try to answer you later on.
Yeah.
So through email. So thank you very much, everyone. We hope our audience were able to learn, get some insights from what we shared today. We hope that we were able to help you in to look at some of the opportunities of this market correction. We will be posting this video on our social media channels and email a copy to all the clients. Let me leave you with a reminder, maybe especially to the short-term traders. Continue studying and getting yourselves educated with how things work. Watch us, Juanis, he always has videos on YouTube. April also. Watch and continue learning. And we'll continue having these webinars as well. So that you can learn also at least, or like, for example, setting up strategies in your trading, planning your entry or exit, managing your risk, diversifying your portfolio, and then allocating some for trading. And but of course, don't forget to put some for your long-term investments. No? So yung mga kumita na dyan ng mga traders, tabi-tabi nyo na yan and put it in long-term naman. It's because the nature of our market remains to be volatile and opportunities will come and go. And I think this correction is giving us that kind of opportunity. Specifically, sina April and Juanis mentioned about 6 stocks. I hope you got them, no? Metrobank, Jollibee, BDO, PLDT, GTCAP, and ICTS. So this could be stocks that you might want to look at in this correction. Our experts, they have given you some guidance. Now, make use of it and do not let your emotions dictate your decisions, because it is during in this market correction where we can find golden opportunities.